In the quiet town of Maplewood, Greystone Manor stood as a relic of a forgotten era, its once grand facade now cloaked in vines and shadows. The townsfolk whispered about the manor's dark history of Margaret Whitmore, the lady of the house, who had vanished without a trace on a stormy night in 1924. They said her spirit lingered, trapped within the walls, forever mourning her lost love. When a group of college friends, Emma, Jake, Sarah, and Liam, decided to spend the night at Greystone Manor for a local ghost hunting challenge, the thrill of adventure overshadowed the warnings they'd heard. Armed with flashlights and a digital recorder, they approached the manor just as dusk settled in, the moon casting an eerie glow over the crumbling structure. The door creaked open as if inviting them in. Inside, the air was thick with dust and an unsettling stillness. Portraits of the Whitmore family lined the walls, their eyes seemingly following the friends as they moved deeper into the house. The faint sound of a piano drifted through the air, a haunting melody that seemed to come from nowhere. "Did you hear that?" Emma asked, her heart racing. "It's just the wind," Jake replied, though he couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. They set up in the parlor, surrounded by faded furniture and old trinkets. As they began to record, Sarah suggested they try to communicate with Margaret's spirit. "If she's here, let's ask her what happened," she urged, excitement tinged with trepidation. With the recorder running, they called out to the spirit. "Margaret, if you can hear us, please respond." The air grew colder, and a soft rustling filled the room. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a whisper brushed past Emma's ear. "Help me," it sighed, so faint that she almost dismissed it as her imagination. Liam, who had been standing by the fireplace, pointed toward a dusty grand piano in the corner. "Look, the keys are moving." They turned to see the ivory keys slowly pressed down as if invisible hands were playing a mournful tune. Chills ran down Emma's spine. "This is insane," she gasped. "Let's go check it out," Jake suggested, his curiosity piqued. They approached the piano, its surface marred with dust. But as they reached out to touch it, a loud crash echoed from the adjacent room. Startled, they rushed toward the sound, finding a heavy chandelier swinging violently, though there was no breeze. "What the hell?" Liam shouted, stepping back. Then the atmosphere shifted. The temperature dropped, and shadows coalesced in the corners of the room. "Margaret, are you here?" Sarah called out, her voice trembling. As if in response, a figure materialized, a woman in a tattered white gown, her face pale and sorrowful. "Help me," she pleaded, her voice echoing like a distant memory. Emma's heart raced. "What do you need?" she asked, stepping closer despite her fear. Margaret's gaze shifted toward the fireplace. "Find him, he wait." With that, the apparition faded, leaving the friends breathless and in shock. "Did we just see a ghost?" Jake breathed, his voice shaky. "Whatever it was, it wants us to find something," Sarah said, her curiosity igniting. They decided to search the house for clues about Margaret and the mysterious man she mentioned. As they combed through the rooms, they discovered old letters hidden in a desk, revealing a tragic love story. Margaret had been deeply in love with a man named Thomas, who had vanished on the night of a terrible storm, just hours before she herself disappeared. Suddenly, a loud thud resonated from the basement. "Should we check it out?" Liam asked, glancing nervously at the others. "Absolutely not. This is getting too creepy," Emma protested, but her voice faltered against her growing intrigue. But the pull of the mystery was too strong. They made their way to the basement door, its hinges creaking ominously as they opened it. The narrow staircase led down into darkness, their flashlights flickering with every step. At the bottom, the air was thick and damp. As they explored the dimly lit room, they found an old trunk covered in cobwebs. "This must be it," Jake said, brushing away the debris. They opened it to reveal a collection of letters, photographs, and a locket. Inside was a faded picture of Margaret and a man who resembled the figure they had seen. "Thomas," Emma whispered, holding the locket up to the light. Suddenly, the basement door slammed shut, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged through the group as they banged on the door, shouting for it to open. "This isn't funny," Liam yelled, The temperature dropped again, and the sound of soft crying filled the air. "Help me! Find him!" Margaret's voice echoed, now more urgent. "We need to get out!" Sarah screamed, her voice laced with fear. Just then, the door swung open, revealing Margaret's ghostly figure, her sorrowful eyes pleading. "You must help me," she cried. With a newfound determination, Emma stepped forward. "We'll help you find Thomas. We promise." The spirit pointed toward the far corner of the basement, where a hidden door lay partially obscured by shadow. They hesitated but pressed on, their fear giving way to resolve. As they opened the door, a wave of cold air rushed over them, revealing a narrow passageway that led deeper underground. The friends followed, the walls damp and rough against their skin. As they ventured further, the passage opened into a hidden chamber, dimly lit by a single flickering bulb. In the center lay a small altar adorned with flowers and the same locket Emma had found. It was a shrine to love lost and a promise unfulfilled. "Thomas must be here," Claire murmured, feeling the weight of the tragedy. As they knelt, the air shimmered, and a figure materialized next to Margaret, Thomas, with a look of longing etched on his face. "Margaret, I've waited for you," he said, reaching out with trembling hands. Emma felt a wave of emotion wash over her. "They need to be together," she said, tears streaming down her face. With their hands joined, Margaret and Thomas began to glow, their sorrow lifting as they turned to the friends. "Thank you," Margaret whispered, her voice now filled with warmth. "You have freed us." In an instant, the chamber filled with light, and the couple embraced, their spirits entwining. The friends watched in awe as the room transformed, filled with vibrant flowers and warmth their love, now eternal. As the light enveloped them, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. The air grew still, and when the brightness faded, they found themselves back in the living room of Greystone Manor. The atmosphere lightened, the shadows retreating. "Did that really just happen?" Liam asked, still in shock. "It did," Emma replied, a smile breaking through her fear. "We helped them find each other." As they left the manor, the moon shone brightly overhead, illuminating their path. They felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing they had played a part in a story that transcended time, a love that would echo in the halls of Greystone Manor long after they were gone. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. As they stepped outside, the chill of the night air wrapped around them, but it felt different now, lighter, almost comforting. The once ominous Greystone Manor stood behind them, a silhouette against the starry sky. Emma took a deep breath, savoring the fresh scent of the earth after the night's revelations. "Do you think they're finally at peace?" Sarah asked, glancing back at the house, her voice soft. "I hope so," Emma replied, feeling a warm glow in her chest. "They deserve it after all those years." As they walked down the gravel path, the laughter of the friends faded into thoughtful silence. The moon hung high, casting a silver light over the landscape, illuminating their way back to the car parked by the road. But as they approached the vehicle, something made Emma stop in her tracks. "Wait," she said, suddenly uneasy. "What is it?" Jake asked, turning to her. "I don't know. I just feel like someone's watching us." She scanned the darkened trees lining the road, but all she saw were the shadows moving gently in the breeze. "Don't freak me out," Liam said, half joking, but even he shifted nervously. "We just helped two ghosts move on. What's there to be afraid of?" Just then, a soft rustling sound came from the woods, followed by a faint, melodic humming that sent chills down Emma's spine. It was eerily similar to the song they had heard from the piano earlier. "Did you hear that?" Emma whispered, her heart pounding. "Yeah, but it's probably just the wind," Jordan said, though his bravado wavered. They all stood still, listening intently. The humming grew louder, intertwining with the rustling leaves, wrapping around them like an unseen fog. "Let's just get in the car," Claire suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can talk about this later." As they hurried toward the car, the humming stopped abruptly, leaving an unsettling silence that felt almost alive. Emma glanced back at the manor one last time, her instincts telling her that their night wasn't over yet. When they reached the car, Emma hesitated. What if there's more we're supposed to do? Like what? Jake replied, exasperation creeping into his tone. We just helped Margaret and Thomas. That should be enough. But Emma felt an unshakable pull to the manor. I feel like they might still need us. What if they're not fully free? Before anyone could respond, she turned and started walking back toward the house. Emma, wait! Sarah called, but Emma was already halfway up the path. Are you serious? Jordan muttered, looking between his friends. We just saw a ghost. You want to go back in there? But the other three exchanged glances, and something in Emma's expression convinced them to follow. As they approached the front door, a sudden gust of wind blew through the trees, rustling branches and sending a shiver down their spines. They paused, exchanging nervous glances before Emma pushed the door open. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with energy. The shadows felt deeper, and the air thicker, almost electric. What do we do? Claire asked, her voice trembling. Maybe we can reach out to them again, Emma suggested, pulling out the digital recorder. We should ask if they need our help one more time. As they gathered in the parlor, they formed a small circle, their flashlights illuminating their faces. Emma pressed the record button, and they called out, Margaret? Thomas? Are you still here with us? For a moment, nothing happened. The only sound was the soft creaking of the house settling. Then, just as they were about to give up, the air grew cold again, and the piano in the corner began to play. This time, it played a beautiful melancholic melody that resonated deep within their hearts. Listen, Sarah gasped, tears welling in her eyes. As the music swelled, the ghostly figures of Margaret and Thomas appeared before them, bathed in an ethereal glow. Margaret's expression was one of gratitude, while Thomas looked hopeful. Thank you for helping us, Margaret spoke, her voice clear and melodic. But there is one final piece. What do you mean? Emma asked, her heart racing. The locket you found, Thomas said, pointing at the locket Emma still held. It holds our memories, our love, but it must be returned to where it belongs. Only then can we truly be free. Emma felt a rush of understanding. You want us to take it back to the altar in the basement? Margaret nodded. It is the key to our freedom. Please, without hesitation, Emma turned and led the group back down to the basement, the air thick with anticipation. They reached the chamber, and Emma placed the locket on the altar, feeling the energy surge around them. The moment it touched the surface, the room filled with a blinding light. Emma shielded her eyes, feeling a warmth envelop her. What's happening? She shouted over the rising intensity. Let it happen, Liam urged, gripping Emma's arm. They need this. As the light pulsed, memories flashed before Emma's eyes, visions of Margaret and Thomas laughing, dancing in the garden, their love blossoming in the sunlight. The sorrow of their parting washed over her, blending with the joy of their shared moments. Suddenly, the light coalesced into a swirling vortex, pulling the shadows away and filling the room with warmth. Margaret and Thomas stepped forward, their hands intertwining as they approached the altar. Thank you for freeing us, they said in unison, their voices resonating through the chamber. As they touched the locket together, the air shimmered, and the shadows around them began to dissipate. We will always watch over you, Margaret added, her eyes sparkling with love. The room filled with a brilliant glow, and Emma felt a profound sense of peace enveloping her. With one last radiant smile, the spirits vanished, leaving behind a lingering warmth that filled the space. The friends stood in awe, breathless and filled with an overwhelming sense of completion. The shadows that once clung to the manor were gone, replaced by a soft, gentle light. As they made their way back up the stairs, the house felt different, alive and inviting rather than foreboding. I can't believe we did that, Jake said, still reeling from the experience. Emma smiled, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. We helped them find their peace. It was worth it, but as they stepped outside, the quiet of the night settled around them, and Emma couldn't shake the feeling that their adventure wasn't truly over. In the distance, she heard a faint, echoing laugh, a sound of joy mingled with freedom. The night air felt lighter, but deep down, She knew that the whispers of Greystone Manor would continue to linger, waiting for the next brave souls to unlock its secrets. As the friends stepped into the cool night air, they felt a sense of closure wash over them. The manor behind them no longer felt like a place of sorrow. It was now a monument to love and memory. They took a moment to breathe in the fresh air, feeling a newfound lightness in their hearts. "Can you believe it?" Sarah said, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and disbelief. "We actually helped them." "Yeah," Jake replied, a smile breaking through his earlier tension. "That was incredible." As they walked toward their car, Emma paused, glancing back at Greystone Manor one last time. The moonlight bathed the building in a soft glow, and for a fleeting moment, she thought she saw a figure standing in the window, a silhouette, arms outstretched, as if waving goodbye. "Did you see that?" Emma pointed. "What?" Liam asked, turning around. "Nothing," she said quickly, unsure if her mind was playing tricks on her. But deep down, she felt the warmth of gratitude emanating from the house, a silent farewell from Margaret and Thomas. Once inside the car, they shared their thoughts on the night's events, the bond between them strengthened by the experience. "You think anyone will believe us?" Claire asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "Who cares?" Jordan shrugged. "We know the truth. That's all that matters." As they drove away from the manor, the road wound through the forest, the trees whispering secrets to one another in the breeze. The atmosphere felt lighter, the shadows less menacing. Emma leaned back in her seat, her mind racing with thoughts of love, loss, and the mysterious connection they'd forged with the past. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life, static filling the car before settling into a hauntingly familiar melody, the same tune they'd heard from the piano. Emma's heart skipped a beat, and she exchanged startled glances with her friends. "Turn it off," Sarah shouted, but Emma held up her hand. "Wait," she said, a strange sense of calm washing over her. "Let it play." The music filled the car, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. It was as if Margaret and Thomas were celebrating their freedom, sharing their joy through the airwaves. "Okay, this is a little creepy," Jake said, but even he couldn't suppress a smile. When they reached the edge of the woods, the music faded into silence, leaving a comforting hush in its wake. Emma felt a sense of closure but also a lingering curiosity. As they drove back into town, the first rays of dawn began to break, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The world felt reborn, as if the night's events had cleansed it. Later that day, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of connection to the manor. "I think we should go back," she said during lunch with her friends. "Not tonight, but maybe next weekend. There might be more to discover." "More ghosts," Liam teased. "More stories," she corrected, her eyes sparkling. "We could learn about the history of the place, about Margaret and Thomas, what they loved, what they lost. There's so much we didn't uncover." Her friends exchanged glances, their curiosity piqued. "All right, I'm in," Jake said with a grin. "But let's not go digging up more spirits. Okay?" As the week unfolded, Emma dove into researching the history of Greystone Manor, uncovering tales of its grandeur and the tragic love story at its heart. Each story brought them closer, intertwining their lives with those of the past. Finally, the following weekend arrived. Armed with new knowledge and an eagerness to reconnect, the group returned to the manor. This time, they weren't just searching for ghosts. They were honoring the memories of Margaret and Thomas, ready to embrace whatever awaited them. As they stood at the entrance, the air buzzed with anticipation. Emma felt the weight of the manor's history, both heavy and inviting. Together, they stepped inside, ready to unveil the layers of time and memory that had shaped the very walls around them. In that moment, they realized they weren't just visitors. They were part of Greystone Manor's story, a story that would continue to echo through the ages, woven together by love, loss, and the whispers of those who had come before. The echoes of the past were no longer haunting. They were a reminder of the connections that bind us all, transcending time and space, always waiting to be rediscovered. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.